Hi there, hope you're well. This is Dan from onlinebasscourses.com. Now, I've already done a video on Bernard Edwards' Everybody Dance, which is just an amazing bass line which features this kind of chucking technique. So I wanted to do a video dedicated to going a little bit more in depth into the technique without actually going into that bass line, because I'll put a link right here where you can go and check that one out if you haven't already. So it's just a really, really cool sort of plectrum without a plectrum sort of a technique where he just holds his kind of thumb and first finger together a little bit like this, as if you're holding a plectrum. And it really is all about playing 16th notes. If you listen to I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross, which was produced by Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards as well, there's a little bit in that where he's kind of just doing kind of idea, the kind of thing I was doing in the intro. So I'm going to show you how to do this. I've got a couple of exercises just that you can go through slowly at first. If you're doing anything like this that's a bit tricky and a bit new, I always recommend not to use a metronome, just to get the mechanics of everything that you're doing down first before you introduce any kind of time-keeping source, which could be a metronome or a drum beat. I've actually got that drum beat and the exercises for you to download. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to do that. But just without anything, we're just going 5th fret, which is the D on the A string, 5th fret of the A string, hammering on to the 7th fret of the A string. So it's a hammer on, and then you're doing downstroke and then down up. Now, really, before going into actually, it really is all about keeping a constant motion going, which you'll see rhythm guitarists do a lot, and Nile Rodgers is the best example of that. If you watch him play, you know, his strumming hand is just constantly moving down and up, and that's really, you've got your beats 1, 2, 3, 4, and you got digga 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 digga. Those are the 16ths in. And actually, whilst my hand is there just holding the strings playing ghost notes, they feature a lot in this kind of playing as well. And that's what this exercise does. So we'll go into it. So 5th fret, hammer on to 7th fret. There's 4 16ths, and then you hold the strings down to play 4 ghost notes. So it's really a lot about the timing in your fretting hand when you release pressure and you get the ghost notes. And it's the interplay between those notes and the ghost notes that I think really gives you the funk in this technique, whilst pretty much keeping your strumming, picking hand just going all the time. Now, if you notice the left hand there, my fretting hand, I've kind of just got it holding all the strings because the picking hand is just a bit too involved with the constant motion of the down and the up strokes to be concerned with muting. So I'm taking care of muting with my fretting hand, and I've got the tip of my first finger just touching the underside of the E string, which I'm not using at all in this particular line. So that takes care of that. And actually, if I fret the notes with my first finger just slightly a bit below the fingertip and then just move the finger back a bit, that's actually muting all the other strings as well. Record yourself playing when you do this, so you really want to listen out for any kind of extraneous noises that will be coming from you accidentally hitting a string. So muting is it's important to get this really, really clean, and then you can really have a lot of fun with it. Pay attention to the downstrokes and the upstrokes, because it's very, very important that you don't trip yourself up by doing 2 downs or 2 ups. It's really that every beat is taken care of by a downstroke. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8th notes are also downstrokes. You double that speed. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then just doubling that, 1E and a 2E and a, you got your 16th notes. I'm tapping my foot as well, so you really got to be aware of all the beats and where they are. But once you're in the groove with that, you can kind of just be guided by, this can just keep going, and it's really all about your fretting hands kind of muting or playing a note. See, at the end there, I'm just going loads of downs there because you're really staying in the groove with this. So I'll just quickly show you the next exercise, which is pretty much the same, but we're skipping a string doing an octave. Now, when you have string skipping, it's always a tiny bit more difficult than if you're playing on one string. So you've got kind of two options here, really. You can keep the ghost notes on that A string and then just do a bit of a jump. Or, since it doesn't really matter where you play ghost notes, kind of pretty much all the same, do the ghost notes on the D string. So it makes the jump a little bit less. You've got kind of one string less to jump across. So, as I said, don't do anything with a metronome yet. Just make sure you have everything locked in, everything together. And then when you do, just do it slowly, because it's really important that everything works slowly before you can actually play fast. That's a really weird kind of contradiction, but to play anything fast on the bass, you must first be able to play it perfectly but slowly. So you've got everything together. Now, what I was playing around with before, and what I'd like you to have a go at, is since this is all in the key of E minor, so I'm just playing around with E minor pentatonic shape. You know, that kind of thing. And also, since it's kind of a funky thing, the Dorian mode works really well. So let me show you a shape of that. So if you go fret 7 to 9 on the A string, I'm going fingers 2 to 4. Then I'm going frets 5, 7, 9 with fingers 1, 2 and 4 on the D string. And then frets 6, 7 and 9 with fingers 1, 2 and 4 on the G string. That's the E Dorian mode, which is the same as... That is just the Dorian mode. Good times just walking up that. It's just a really great sound for this kind of funky stuff. So really, if you want to kind of expand on those exercises, that's a good place to start. You've got your E minor pentatonic and the E Dorian. And, you know, I did one thing which I quite like. It's just something I found that seems to work. That kind of thing, but I was just going across one string. And if you're doing that on one string and I don't have to worry about any jumping with the picking hand, then it makes it a little bit easier. Hammer-ons sound really good. You can do pull-offs as well. But just notice that this hand is just doing this. You know, if I'm picking just long quarter notes, then I don't need to keep that constant motion. But if I'm going back into 16th, it's really helpful to think of this just as a machine. You know, just your right hand, if your right hand, just going like a machine. So Bernard used to call that chucking. That was his technique, and I'm sure he was looking over at Nile Rodgers in the studio and seeing the way that he was just had that really, really great locked-in rhythm, and just thought, yeah, I'll fancy a bit of that. And I think that's probably where he got it from. I don't know too much about the history of it, but this is something that you can use in your own playing. Now, very important also was that my palm, this sort of fat side of the hand there, is just sort of resting by the bridge to get a bit of palm muting. So you may want to play around with that a bit, and the notes pop out a bit more. And of course you can do it without. And there I'm putting my little finger on the pick guard here, just that steadies everything a bit more. So I really hope you got something from that. If you did, please like, subscribe, share the video. That really, really helps me to keep this channel going. And I'll see you on the next video.